Dzień dobry. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Ciao. Konnichiwa. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Ken at 10. How are you today? It's Friday. Fantastic. You know about me on Fridays. I love a Friday. My favorite day of the week. Why? Because it's the day that we get busy getting everyone out viewing for the weekend. If you haven't been here before, then welcome and thanks for joining us. And if you're regular, thanks for coming back. How are you today? Hope you're well. Lots of people vaccinated now. It's looking good, isn't it? We can see a chink of light at the end of the tunnel. And I must say the vaccination program has impressed me. You know, very few advantages to Brexit I can see so far, but this vaccination program is certainly one of them when you look at the rest of Europe and the mess they're in and how far forward we are. For once, it seems like we're doing something right. Locking down the country, though, you know, that's good, I think, on the one hand. But on the other hand, I think, hang on a minute, we're an island. Why don't we do this in the first place? We wouldn't be where we are. But that's another story for another day. So welcome. If you've never been here before, we are James Alexander Estate Agents. We're in Norbury, which is in SW16. And geographically, that is between Croydon and Streatham. So a South London suburb. We're zone 3 commuting area. If you're thinking of renting or buying, then we're a fantastic area with some lovely people and some really interesting places. So do give us a call or drop us an email or direct message us, or there are many ways you can contact us. I just completed this week's podcast as well. I'll put some links on the Facebook platform in a little while and on our Twitter feed and Insta. Something we started last week is the Property Buyers and Sellers podcast. So if you'd like me to join you on your next journey in your car on a podcast, then please do download, and I hope you enjoy it and follow us on that too. And of course, please, as always, share some love. Grateful if you can like, share, and don't forget to subscribe and press the bell if you're watching on YouTube. So yeah, we basically broadcast about all things property and just life in general, really. So I hope you're having a good day. It seems really weird that it's the 12th of February already. Yesterday, we have a Polish colleague in the office, and she reliably informed us, quite rightly, that it was Fat Thursday. What does that mean, I hear you ask? Well, it's a Christian feast, and it means you have to eat donuts, lots of them. And we did. Yes, indeed. We kept the faith. We ate lots of donuts yesterday. And yeah, very enjoyable, if a little bit gluttonous, if I'm honest. But there we are. Took a few phone calls from a few as well, funnily enough. And apart from that, we had an interesting one today. We had someone apply via our emails for a property, and they started the email, "I'm a single male," in capital letters. That tickled me somehow, the idea that they're a single male. I don't know whether they thought they were going on a dating website or looking for a property, but it's funny to see anyway. General news, Help to Buy. As many of you will know, I'm not the greatest fan of Help to Buy. Yes, some people have used it. The problem with Help to Buy is that it's there for the new builds, and it's ending on the 31st of March, but it's been extended. The current scheme, people on the current scheme will have more time to complete their purchase, said Homes England. It's an article in the Daily Mirror. The extension applies directly to those midway through a transaction, and Homes England said many buyers experiencing further delays past May 31 will not be granted an extension. So they've got until May now, and it said developers will have to refund reservation fees. I should think so as well. Wales house prices top 200,000. It seems ironic, you know, we can't buy a one-bed flat here for 200,000, and the average house price in Wales is 200k. But I always remember years ago we had well, still know 2 developers. One who invested very heavily in Wales and gets a very good rental yield, has done very well in terms of income, and his friend, also a property developer, did the same thing, but instead took his money and spent it on fewer properties here in London, specifically around Wimbledon and Clapham. And guess who won that in the wealth stakes? The value of the properties in Wales hardly moved, and the value of the properties in London shot up exponentially. So yeah, interesting to see. But yeah, apparently the average house price in Wales is top 200,000. This again is interesting to me because it shows that during the pandemic, people have changed their strategy for where they want to live. You know, we've talked a lot about this before, where people are commuting by Zoom, so they no longer need to live in London. Not that I think that London is going to be all of a sudden completely vacant. It just doesn't work that way. London's still one of the best cities, in my view, the best city in the world. We're on the outskirts of it, and there are plenty of fantastic people around here who love it, want to stay here, and are looking forward to London reopening for all the cultural reasons and many others. There's so many benefits to living in a big city. And also, the climate. When I look around the country, it's always snowing and severe weather. And yet here we are in London and pretty much we stay constant. By the way, the weather today in Norbury is snow's gone. There is no snow here, very little, kind of a few bits, melting on the top of trees and things like that. But generally the snow is gone, which is great. I love the snow when it comes and when it's heavy, and that's quite pretty for a minute. And then within a day, bored with it, please move on. Sunshine comes out, please melt it. And that seems to have happened, which is nice. Data from Knight Frank is another article in the Times saying that more buyers are falling in love with the property on the first viewing. Yeah, right. Well, that's not true, is it? What I think is happening there is people are feeling the urgency, especially given the deadline that's approaching. So they're having to make a buying decision quicker. And what they're saying is that love at first sight purchases are 58% of total sales now. But I don't think that takes account of the pressure that people feel under to make a decision first time around. I don't think it's got anything to do with them falling in love first time around. It's just they know they've got no time and there's a sense of urgency on the purchase. Interesting one on the Grenfell scandal and the cladding. Government lacks data on cladding. The government does not know the true scale of the cladding safety crisis on high-rise buildings. It's an article in the Times, the Eye, Evening Standard. 3 years on from the Grenfell Tower fire, the government has no complete data on how many mid-rise buildings are affected. That's incredible, isn't it? It's just beggars belief. They don't hold proper data on how many buildings under 18 meters are involved. The government would not say why this information has not been collected. Because you haven't done it, because you haven't organised as usual. It comes as campaigners denounce as pathetic the new taxes on house builders and developers set up by the government to help pay the cost of making safe thousands of buildings and their cladding. City analysts calculated the tax is equivalent to less than 4% of their profits. Well, at least they've done it, and we've been saying for some time that big builders should bear the brunt. In fact, all of the cost of the cladding works. It's not the fault of these poor first-time buyers that got caught up in this scandal. And, it needs to be sorted out by the government. Sadiq Khan has delivered less than half the affordable houses he promised. Well, he promises a lot, doesn't he? Hasn't delivered in this case on this as in many other areas. And basically, it's another reason why investment in housing is always a wise thing, because whatever the government say about keeping up with demand, they never do. And this is why rental properties are always in demand. MJ Gleeson, this is an interesting one. MJ Gleeson, they specialize in the supply of first-time buyer homes, people with low affordability, and their pre-tax profit has increased by 52.6%. And this is why I say that these developers should be paying the cost of the cladding scandal. 52.6%. They earned £20.3 million last year. Can you believe that? And homes sold during the period jumped 17.3%. That's just unbelievable, isn't it? So that's it for the national headlines. Here locally in Norbury, what we're finding is that we're quite busy actually on both sales and lettings. Lots of viewings happening, starting to get into, really weirdly, we're starting to register more first-time buyers, and that's really encouraging. And that's typical for the spring. As we're getting into the spring, doesn't feel like it yet, does it? But it's coming. It is coming. There's a chink of light. We can see some sunshine. Although it's pretty cold, it's not too bad. So yeah, we're seeing more first-time buyers register. Lots of viewings this weekend. Flats are still struggling more than houses, but there is still a market out there. Things are still moving. And, we had a conversation with someone yesterday, and our favourite solicitor was saying, a lot of agents are saying you can't buy a house now. You don't have time to buy a house by the deadline. And one of our favourite solicitors, who is a wonderful person, you know who you are, she was saying that definitely she can get it through by the deadline. She will push it. She's got the information. She'll do personal searches and she can still complete the sale. If you want to do it and the vendor solicitors are on the ball, it can still happen. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen for everybody. I don't believe it will. When will we hear more about what's going to go on with this stamp duty deadline? I hear you ask. It's the 3rd of March. When the budget comes is when I think we'll hear. Of course, there's no, it's not a requirement that Rishi says anything. He doesn't have to. He's made this deadline as March 31st. He could just stick to it. But our gut feeling is that he'll go beyond that and he'll extend the existing deadline for those already proceeding with a purchase. I don't suspect that he'll do it for new purchases or extend it for another year, the way it's looking. The direction of travel seems to be that he's going to extend it for existing purchases and then that will be fading away. What I'm hoping, as many of you will know, is that there's some incentive in there or some way that first-time buyers can buy on the second-hand, not the new build market. We know you love your mates up there, Rishi, but it shouldn't happen. It should be about the wider market. not your mates in the PLCs that you're trying to protect from the cladding scandal. It should be about first-time buyers getting the homes they want, and you need to underwrite those loans for them so they can get 95% mortgages at fair rates, not at 4%, at 2% like the rest of us. Rant over. So that's it for today. The reason I like Friday so much, by the way, just quickly, is that today is the day when people set up viewings for the weekend, looking to buy and rent properties. So this is when we tee it all up and make sure that if people are out viewing, they're viewing with us. And so, yeah, really busy day for us. We're on the phones pushing hard to make sure those buyers are viewing our stock, looking at our houses, and we're selling our vendors' homes. And if you're struggling to sell, you want some advice, we're always here for you. That's what we do. So have a fantastic weekend, fantastic day, and we'll be back same time on Monday for another Ken at 10. Stay safe.